Um, well, first I'll show the intercon initiatives. Not the initiatives, but kind of the effect they had on XP. Um, can y'all see that? So this is like the top 50 players, I think. And the XP before and after the intercon initiatives. Sorry, not intercon, I keep saying intercon. Metafest. Um, the basically like all of the Metafest initiatives amounted to around like 7.2 thousand XP, um, which makes like the total XP. Here, I can go check here. Um, yeah, so this was a total XP before adding the initiatives, and this is a total XP after adding the initiatives. So basically, what it means is like all of Metafest is like counts as like 7% of the total XP ever generated. I checked with Penguin and he said that kind of seems all right, like ballpark level in terms of like overall effort um, in the history of the project. And yeah, what do you guys think? Is that kind of accurate?
I'm not sure if it's like 10% of everything.
7%.
That's 7. That's okay. That's 30% less
And
than the
yeah, like in
relative.
terms of the actual like XP changes, you can see them here. Um, so like biggest jump I think was like Penguin from 2600 to 3500 XP. Um,
Like, yeah.
Peeth also actually jumped to like 1000 XP. Um, it's interesting too here. Like I actually didn't have like a ton of XP from MetaFest itself. Like I put one initiative for like the talk I gave, and then one more like initiative with like a weight of 5 for like um doing the whole like distributions and setting this all up. Um but the it's interesting because like even people who were like completely inactive, their XP increased by a bit too because the overall XP increased. So like it spreads around the whole graph. So because I have like connections in the graph to Peeth and to other people and to all these things that um Peeth having a Peeth and Penguins XP increasing also increases my XP a little bit just because I have like connections in the graph there. So yeah, that's kind of like a nice like example of how you can get XP from the people that you're like interacting with, and like when they succeed, you kind of have a stake in their XP. Um, but yeah, like does anything here like jump out to anyone in terms of like someone not getting uh or like something seeming off in terms of the XP increases
I'm only
based on.
noticing that Alec, like he lost one position. Like he was really active in MetaFest, but he's like
So in terms of the initiatives,
lose, if
I
not
didn't see a
didn't.
lot of initiatives in there. Let me see.
Yeah, I was not very active at all in Manifest, so I think it's
Yeah, but
totally fair.
this is like for MetaGame as a whole. This is not just MetaFest. Yeah, but this is not just MetaFest. This is like the whole month in MetaGame, right?
No.
Or
So this, like, so you can see last month Alec was the number one XP earner because Alec earned all his XP from like GitHub and contributions that were already being tracked automatically, versus everyone else didn't get their XP tracked until this. So you can kind of consider this like just the difference in XP from adding
okay.
the MetaFest initiatives.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Then it makes sense because I was like, okay, how did he only get like 30 XP for everything he did?
Yeah. Yeah, no, so this is already the amount. This is already like the current amount that he had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Good to know our system works. Anyone else have any other thoughts on this? Otherwise, we can move on to SourceCred discussion.
Yeah, I was just curious if all the speakers, like how many of them are accounted for here, and were those jumps like, similar or accurate or whatever.
Y- 3. Yeah, so for
Should we ignore the
example,
ones that aren't players? Because like only the right.
yeah, they would need to have at least like a Discord account and have linked their Ethereum address.
Well, they are all on Discord, but they don't have ETH addresses set.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like we could do like a shout out to them and like ask them to add their ETH address if they want. There's a pretty long list of speakers. I think there was like 17 or 18 I had in there. I don't know how many there were actually in total.
A shit ton, yeah. There was, I don't know what's the actual number, but if you check the voting channel, there's a lot of them, and probably not all should get, but yeah.
Yeah, so an interesting thing to note as well is like before when we used to do the seed distributions, they would just go directly to people. But now that people actually have to manually claim, it's interesting to see how many people actually haven't claimed it at all. People who are basically like not that involved or like kind of even know to like claim the seeds. Like there's still 1,500 seeds in the contract that are unclaimed
Yeah.
by people. So yeah.
Just a question in a philosophical sense. How do these initiatives work? Like, do they calculate a certain number of XP and they give it? Do they calculate and then they spread it throughout the time or activity?
Yeah, I can show it. So here you can see what the initiatives look like. So they all have a weight and a timestamp. So what it does basically, based on the weight, it mints a certain amount of XP for that person at that time. And then from that minting, like it gets spread out throughout the rest of the graph. So yeah, it just basically like mints a bunch of XP based on the weight of that specific initiative, and it flows to the whoever was a contributor there. The just based on the way you guys like kind of created that table of contributions, I basically set it up as like a bunch of like individual contributions. But you can kind of make it more like you can get more like fancy with it. Like for example, like you can see there's a bunch of these schedule contributions. Like we could say that like there is someone who's a champion of the scheduling stuff, and they're going to get like a big chunk of the XP, and then other people that made minor contributions to it. And then you just set the weight at the top level, and then it'll kind of flow automatically. But it's kind of the same thing as doing it this way in terms of like the actual end effect on XP. So this was just the easiest way to kind of convert between the table that you guys made and kind of how you guys decided on the weights of each of these contributions, and yeah, converting that into this format. Yeah. So all these kind of like contributions sit under like a bigger like MetaFest initiative that has like a 34 weight, which is like the highest weight. that we do. And yeah, like this weight kind of like affects the like XP of all these contributions inside of it. So if I were to like reduce this weight, then it would kind of reduce all the XP for these internal contributions. So you can kind of think of like these being like multipliers on top of each other.
Cool. Thanks for explaining.
No worries. Awesome. So if that's it, we can move on to talking about SourceCred stuff. I remember there was a doc or a sheet somewhere that had a bunch of the questions that we came up with before. Does anyone have that on hand?
Oh yeah, I had it. Just my XP. Oh, yeah, let me find it. SourceCred.
I have a question about this as well. Like this minting will be MetaFest, but it will also be like everything else that happened during the MetaFest.
Yeah.
But does
So
it like, is it like up until last month, or will it include like everything up until like today?
it'll include everything up until today.
Okay.
Okay, let me drop the link in.
Yeah, is anybody scribing this call? Just curious.
Me too, yeah. I dropped it in Dungeon Walls, the doc file.
Cool. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Do you want to just go through these in order? Just kind of freestyle.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
Sure. I might need some clarification on these questions. So first question is, can you go from 0 to 100 to 0 with XP?
Yeah.
I assume this means like, can you like lose XP?
Well, yeah, if let's say your XP came from a higher ranked player, and then they get demoted, then their weight drops off, right? And then your XP should go down, right?
Yes.
So
yeah, so basically XP is like constantly being recalculated retroactively, and like the weight of a players' contributions are different depending on their role and the channel and all these things. So if the roles and the channels change, then so does the XP, and that goes retroactively as well. But the reason why that's kind of okay is that XP and seeds are like two different concepts. So um, if the seeds were minted at that time that like that person's XP was higher, then like you got paid those seeds, and the seeds don't get changed retroactively. So you kind of got paid at that like higher XP rate. And then moving forward, if your XP drops, then it only affects like the amount of seeds that you make in the future, not in the past, because you already got those. So in that way, it kind of still allows it to be dynamic where basically the main reason for this is like as the situation changes, or like some player drops off, or it was even someone who was trying to game the system and they gained a bunch of XP but then got demoted. Like it allows that dynamic to still be captured and accounted for. Does that make sense?
But that only applies if they remain here, right? If they gamed and left, they gamed, right? But if they want to stay, then in the future it will be accounted for. Is that what you were saying? Or?
So like whatever it is, like if they stayed and they still have their role, then the XP doesn't change. The XP only changes as like the roles change, or so like one other thing that can affect it is like if some player like deletes their Discord account, or deletes a bunch of old Discord messages, then it can actually affect the historical XP as well. Like for example, if there's some like Pete's signed post, I think we reduced the XP on that already, but for example, let's say that we didn't, and Pete had like a shit ton of XP from that signpost. And then he deleted that post, and that XP would be gone from the historical record. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Next question. Does retroactive deduction also reduce the amount of seeds minted in the next snapshot? So it doesn't like directly reduce the amount of seeds minted. It kind of depends. So the way in which we mint seeds is there's essentially like different allocation policies that we use. The two allocation policies are recent and balanced. The way that the recent policy works, and so like for example, we distribute I think 2/3 of seeds, or like 75% of the seeds in the recent policy, and then 25% of the seeds in the balanced policy. With the recent policy, it basically distributes seeds only based on the XP in the last like few weeks. So and on a decaying rate. So let's say there's like 400 seeds to be distributed, then it'll distribute those 400 seeds based, like it'll maybe do like 200 in the last week, and then 100 in the week before that, and 50 in the week before that, and 25 in the week before that, kind of on a decaying rate. So in any given like distribution every week, it kind of like accounts for your most recent contributions. And that part of the distribution isn't affected by like how much XP you had before and after. It's just based on like what percentage of the recent XP you had. And then the second policy is the balanced policy. The balanced policy is what kind of accounts for these retroactive updates. And if someone either like increased in XP retroactively or decreased, what balance does is it looks at how much XP everyone earned all time, and then how much grain everyone earned all time. And then it calculates for each person like how much grain per XP they were given. And the people who are given the lowest amount of grain per XP, it distributes to them first to kind of balance out the like discrepancy between some people who might have been paid like more grain per XP because they contributed like a lot in a certain period of time when there weren't other contributors, or whatever the reason might be. So over time, like the balance policy, even though it's like only 25% of each distribution, over time it kind of has the effect of like correcting things back to normal. Like it doesn't kind of reset it all in 1 week, but it kind of just leans more towards giving people who had like less XP per seed, or paying them first. And if you were paid more XP, so like for example, in terms of if your historical all-time XP goes down, then the amount of seeds that you earn per XP is going to be higher. So in the next distribution, you're going to get a smaller portion of the balanced allocation. Does that make sense? Or I can rephrase that if that didn't make sense.
So there's like a certain like pool that is used specifically for balancing, and then depending on the noise and grain, it tries to balance out with the rest of the things.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, yeah. When I say grain, I mean seeds. So yeah, sorry for that confusion. I'm reading like because in the actual code it's written as grain. But yeah, so with seeds, like whoever has, like if you earn more seeds, like divide the total amount of seeds you've earned by the total amount of XP you earned. Whoever has the lowest ratio of seeds to XP, aka like someone earned more XP but didn't get as many seeds for that same amount of XP as someone else, they'll get paid more, like a bigger portion of that balanced allocation.
Oh, nice.
How does it work if there's like a fixed fixed number of seeds and like the number of players keeps increasing?
It just gets spread thinner between the players. But like the way that we've been doing it before is we've like scaled up the amount of seeds we distribute per active player. So like in the like last distribution, we minted around like 550 seeds per week. I haven't calculated exactly what it's going to be for this distribution if we still use that same metric, but we might actually want to adjust that metric to kind of like scale it down a bit depending on like what people think. Because if there's like a 10x increase in active players, maybe we don't actually want a 10x increase in seed distribution for like diluting it too much. Maybe we only want a 5x or 3x increase. So yeah, that's something we can decide.
And how much is it now per active player?
Let me see. Where is it? By how much is it now? It'll basically be what it was last time. I haven't like done the actual distribution yet for how much is it going to be now. But I have this. It was 20 seeds per week per active contributor.
And how much XP is? Okay, 20 XP.
Yeah.
Or to be considered an active contributor.
Yeah. So yeah, you can see like last week, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There was 11 active contributors last week. That's actually lower than it was before, surprisingly. Is that right? Like, has there been less active players or more active players?
The MetaFest was definitely like a peak of activity. So I
Okay.
wouldn't be surprised if this week was.
Yeah. So last week, I guess, was outside of MetaFest, so harder to say then. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, it looks like this file needs updating. Yeah, so like maybe like the number of active people with like at least 10 XP might be a lot higher, but number of active people with 20 XP might be not as high. Yeah. So yeah, I'll see what the actual numbers are and like how different it is from last time. If it's like a huge increase from last time, then I'll let you guys know and like we can kind of figure out what we want to do there.
Yeah, sounds good. Because yeah, if we lowered it to 10 XP, then we should probably lower the seeds per active player as well. Because as it stands, like currently, it's like what is like $1,000 per active player, and then we just need to figure out like how much effort it actually takes to create 20 XP. But
Cool.
like yeah, if I got 1,000 XP in a month, then I'm guessing that it doesn't really take much effort to create 20 XP.
Yeah. Let's see. Last month you had like 225 XP, for example. Okay, cool.
Okay, then it's at least not like a 5-minute thing.
Sorry, the last week?
We should probably rename this credit to XP so it's not confusing to people.
These are all the people.
And they're fairly active. Bag holder was didn't make the cut, bro.
Yeah, so like just to like clarify, it doesn't like who the individuals are doesn't matter. This is just to calculate like the number of people who have more than 20 XP. So like even if you have 19 XP, you're not gonna like get cut off from the amount of XP that you get,
yeah,
or the amount of seeds that you get.
Nah, you
Right,
suck,
But I could
Jackson.
bring it up for everybody if I got over that hump, right?
Yeah.
Everybody got
Nobody
less
emoed
because
my
of
did a
you.
thing. I'll just
So-
point that out.
So how do we remove Bagsy
Oh.
from the ledger?
Devil's
How do
advocate.
you what?
Let's go.
How do you remove Bagsy from the game?
Yeah, kick him out.
Oh yeah, you got
There's two of them, so we
exclamation,
can kick one with
remove,
EXP.
PET, and then it should autocomplete.
Cool. All right, next question. Does the amount of given emoji matter? I.e., does my weight change if I give lots of reactions versus almost none? Good question. So we were discussing this at SourceCred. So right now I think the amount of emoji does matter. Like if you give lots more reactions, you will be creating more XP than someone who gives no reactions. But at the same time, you'll also be like creating more like connections of XP like externally. So you would also like lose some more XP as well than someone who doesn't react at all. But it goes the other way around too, because if you make connections with other people, when they generate XP, then that can come back to you as well. So the ideal way to play the game is to give like a median amount of or reactions. You know, if you're spamming reactions everywhere, then that's not really a good strategy. And if you're not giving any reactions, it's not a good strategy either. Because you won't get that, like, you know, the reverse flows back to you. So
Oh, like a bell curve.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know what the exact number is. But let me see. Actually, I can maybe pull it up.
What do you mean by
see
that,
that?
Penguin?
Ah.
Yeah, and it's like, I think it's not really like ideal to be like going back and changing your reactions like after the fact. It's more so like you should more so kind of just try to optimize what you're reacting to in the first place. Yeah, because like going back after the fact can like throw things off, because like you like changed it and then like someone else changed it and you can overcorrect, and then like it kind of like, you know, it's not like the ideal way that the game should be played, essentially.
How much you said it was 500 per week seeds, like without the per active player?
That was last time. So that was because we had like at that time, what is it? Like there was like over 20 active players per week. That's the
So that's
what we
calculated inside
distributed.
that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
there's
asking, like,
no
what's the base number?
there's no base number.
So it's just per active player.
Yeah. If there's no one who
Okay.
had 20 experience, then it would be 0.
Oh, okay. I thought there was like a fixed number plus per active player.
No, it's
And
just
that's how I was explaining it to everyone.
oh, okay. I mean, it could like for all intents and
And the
purposes,
20
it
per
doesn't
20
really
is
matter.
per week, right? Not
Yeah, per week.
yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Is X amount of XP equals Y amount of seed minted for every player? No. For
I lost your
example,
screen, by the way.
oh,
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
blank.
loading.
let me see. I'll restart it.
Sorry for it.
All good, all good. Can you see it now?
Yep. Yes.
Cool. See if I can zoom in a bit too. Does the amount, is X amount of XP equal Y amount of seed minted for every player? No. So the reason why not, because I mean, like, roughly, like the kind of, if you take like the balanced policy, and like if we gave more weight to the balanced policy and kind of distributed for like the next year, in the future, then like everyone would have the same amount of XP per seed. But in practice, it doesn't, like it, so basically in the long term, like it'll kind of tend to that. But the reality is that, like, someone might have done a lot more work in one given week than other players, and there was like not as many other active players, and we minted a certain amount of seed that week, so then they got a bigger portion of that. And the things we mentioned in the question above too, about if your like historical XP changes, then your ratio of like seed to XP can change as well. Likewise, if you get promoted up a role, then you're likely going to get a bigger amount of seed minted in the next distribution. So instead of thinking of it as like a direct correlation, kind of think of it as like two like lines that are kind of like pulling each other, or like they have like some sort of like gravitational force on each other. So like XP changing does change seed, but not sort of like instantly or directly. It kind of like puts a force on the seeds changing, and then they change over the next few weeks as they're minted. So yeah, they're correlated, but not like directly, if that makes sense. Any questions? No. All right, next question.
Sounds good.
Can XP be transferred from player A to player B? So if you mean like, can I give my XP to someone? No. But in terms of like the XP flowing throughout the graph, yes, that's definitely how it works. In fact, XP is always being transferred from players, but not actually directly from a single player to another. The XP flows throughout like the graph of contribution. So the XP might flow from you to a Discord message. It will flow from you to a reaction to a Discord message, and then from there to the person who wrote that message. And then like that, there's like a bunch of other connections in the graph of like, here's the author, here's people who liked it, here's the channel it was in, and like every single like action you take kind of spreads the XP everywhere. You can kind of think of it like gravity, like you actually have a gravitational force on like the sun. Like the weight of your body is pulling on the sun. Like it's a really, really, really small amount, but it still is. And everything in the universe that has mass is pulling on each other, depending on how much mass they have. And XP kind of works in the same way. So everything is connected. And the degree of connection and the actual amount, like, just matters on like the weight of the node, which is like, affected by the channel weights and the roll weights and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's a very like kind of fluid and dynamic thing. Like it's not like you got XP and it's kind of sitting in a box like under your account. Like it's more so like just a force that kind of spreads throughout the whole graph. And it's kind of counterintuitive, because like it's a bit reductive when you see like this list of, here's all the XP everyone has, and it's kind of just like a discrete number. But this number is not really like, this is not really a direct representation of the reality. This is kind of just like derived from, it's like an end calculation, or it's like a you take whatever that like state of energy is for everyone, and like calculate how much, like, what's the net effect on this person, what's the net effect on that person, and that's the number that you get. So this is kind of like these XP numbers are like derived from the actual graph, but the actual graph is very like dynamic.
Kind of goes back to what Penguin was saying.
So yeah, we can technically. So in SourceCred, there's this concept of identities. And if you look, for example, this is my identity, and my identity is like merging all these different aliases. So before these are merged, like the graph itself doesn't know that like my GitHub account and my Discourse account and my Discord account are all the same person. So we merge these identities, and what it does is basically like makes it so it's like one entity in terms of the graph. What would normally be other entities. So if someone loses their account and they create a new account, if we add that new account under their old identity, then they'll kind of like inherit all the XP from that identity. So it would still be linked to their old ID. But assuming that they lost access to the old account or whatever, like it depends what it is. If their account got deleted and all their old messages got deleted, then they'll probably lose XP, which of course isn't ideal. And like SourceCred's working on like solutions to this, basically like snapshotting the state of like the data used to calculate XP in the future. Like there is kind of like an existential risk, like let's say if Discord bans us, or like Discord like shuts down completely, then we kind of lose a lot of that information that we use to generate this XP. It'll still kind of be like we'll have a copy of it like sitting as a cache somewhere, but it's not really like the system isn't designed to like work from that primarily. The next versions of SourceCred are being changed to actually work from those caches primarily. So instead of like every time loading all the data from Discord, it'll kind of be a separate process. Like SourceCred will only look at like this saved data cache of like what the data was before, and then there'll be a separate process to like update that cache periodically, so that if the source of the data ever like gets lost or something, that we still have a copy of it that we can use to like act as the foundation. But yeah, like for now we're just like crossing our fingers that Discord doesn't ban us.
I want to also ask you, like you said you were working on the SourceCred adding ETH addresses like natively functionality, so we can avoid the set ETH address channel.
Yeah, so that's still in progress. Like, so the SourceCred ledger itself does have support for ETH addresses, but there's like a bunch of work that needs to be done in terms of like actually creating a Discord bot or something that can actually automatically update the ledger. Like we have our own version of it. It's still a work in progress. I haven't been able to wrap it up. I was looking at it the other day though. So like someone will still need to like link their ETH address, but we can kind of do it in a more automated way in the future. Oh yeah, the identity index and ceramic is what they're looking to integrate with, and I think like identity index is making good progress now. Like it's starting to be more ready to use, but there's still like they have their own account linking UI that we wanted to use, but that's not fully ready yet. So and also we're waiting for them to migrate all the 3-box data to identity index, so then we can kind of in one whole fell swoop like migrate our like my meta profiles to IDX, and then use that as a source of truth for addresses and do all that stuff.
Got it. Nice. Yeah, that's what the question was coming to. Like, I wanted to ask, like, will we be able to make the set ETH address part of the profile creation flow?
Yeah. So once so right now we're still kind of reliant on 3-box. If we were to move to identity index right now, everyone would have to like put in all their data again, and like even if they do that, then it'll kind of be gone once they do the mainnet launch, because right now it's still in the testnet beta, where we can start integrating it, but any data we put in there is going to be temporary. It's basically just for testing and developing on. And then once they do their mainnet launch, they're going to migrate all the existing 3-box profiles to IDX.
Nice.
And
Do you
then
know
at that point, it'll
what
kind
was
of
the
be.
ETA for that?
I'll have to check. Like I think, let me see. There's a call we're supposed to have. Yeah, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific is like the IDX like beta check-in thing. So they're still in like this like early access program and like working on developing and improving the system. I'm guessing they're probably aiming for like mainnet launch sometime in the summer. Not sure if there's an exact date yet. But yeah, there's a bunch of teams like starting to integrate stuff and like use it and like kind of battle test it so they can like fix all the bugs before mainnet.
Nice.
Cool. Next question. Can any individual with admin rights mint whatever amount of XPs? Not directly. Like, so the only way I guess you can directly do that in a way is like creating a new initiative. You have to like create the initiative, and then that's the initiatives are like the only way to like directly mint XP. But for that, like you still have to like create the initiative, like push it up to the GitHub, like it'll kind of be visible if someone tries to do that. So there's no like invisible way in which an admin can manipulate XP directly, at least. There are ways you can do it indirectly, like if an admin like deletes someone's Discord roles, that can change XP, or if they add Discord roles to someone, that can change XP. If someone goes and updates the weights file in GitHub, that's kind of where like it's configured, like the different channel weights and everything that can change XP. But all that stuff is kind of like in terms of like the GitHub stuff, updating the config, that's pretty visible to everyone. People like messing around in Discord, that's harder to be visible. But even then, it doesn't actually like directly mint more XP. It just kind of like changes the weights on people and the changes their roles or something, and that's how it can get affected. Questions? So for minting seeds, like you can technically like mint them in the ledger and like push it up to GitHub, and it'll kind of show up there. But what's in the SourceCred ledger is not going to be actually minted on chain. For someone to actually mint it on chain, it needs to go through like the DAO vote. That's the only way to actually mint the real like seed tokens. And like in practice, like with the DAO vote, like if me and Peeth between us really wanted to mint seeds, like we have enough voting weight probably to mint them. And like in practice too, like the people have to actually be like watching Aragon to see what votes are even there. I think we have some sort of channel that kind of posts the Aragon updates. Maybe not, but yeah, like it like in practice, you kind of have to rely on people actually knowing. Like if I could DM Peeth and be like, hey, let's mint a bunch of seeds and dump them on the market, and we could put the vote up on Aragon and not tell anyone, and unless someone's actually looking, they wouldn't know that that vote is there to like vote against it. So there is like kind of a bit of improvement we can make in terms of the transparency, but in practice it's kind of like I mean, it would be like really dumb of us to do that, because we would like destroy the value of the seeds in the whole community and the trust and everything. So the trust is our collateral, I guess. That kind of like helps us stay in that like semi decentralized environment. because yeah, like on a technological level, it is fully decentralized, the seed minting, but on like a practical level, because of these like social things, like it can not, like, you know, in practice it might not be as decentralized as it looks on a technological level.
We should probably like
Yeah.
this could happen with like even low seed holders, because like if nobody notices, then you can get a proposal passed with not many seeds, and like
Yeah,
I don't
so
really
I think
keep
you
an eye
still
out on
need
Aragon.
We need Aragon fairies.
Yeah.
Forget what the link is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I already
I th-
set a timer.
I think you still need, I think, something like a certain amount of like I think it's 5 or 10% like minimum people voting for it to pass as well. In addition to like 50% voting yes. And we can also configure that if you want to have a higher threshold, but the downside of that is like you know, everyone needs to pay more gas costs to vote.
10% is needed.
There's no way to move that to NL2, is there?
I mean, not directly, because like the actual like seed token contract is on mainnet. So if you were to like deploy another seed contract in L2, it would not be the same token. So the token still needs to be created on mainnet. But you know, there's
like clear that contract from like a new contract, right? You couldn't set owner to another address.
yeah, like the seed contract would still be on mainnet. Maybe we could change the owner of the seed contract or something, but that would still mean that we need to mint the seeds on mainnet. Like another way that like I've seen is a lot more scalable on mainnet is people just using Gnosis. So instead of having like, because in practice barely anyone actually votes on these proposals. So with Gnosis, it's just a multi-sig, and you have like a board of like elected multi-sig signers. So maybe like 5 people in the community that get chosen to like act as signers, and you need like
validators, basically.
Yeah, you need like 3 out of 5 people to like approve a transaction, and for that, like, it doesn't cost anything to vote. You just get the signatures from people, and then, you know, since it's a Gnosis safe, like it doesn't have all the like extra complication of an Argon DAO, and you can just, you know, directly mint seeds and do all these like interactions. Like you can just use Wallet Connect, for example, to like interact with any DApp directly. For us, like in the last few distributions, we've had to like mint to my personal account, and then I did the distribution there. But we can improve on that by like, instead of minting to my personal account, we create a Gnosis safe and then mint from the Aragon DAO into that Gnosis safe. And if we want to like really save on gas costs, we can just like mint like a shit ton of seeds up front and put them in the Gnosis safe, just as like, you know, for all the future distributions, maybe for like the next year or so. They won't actually be, they'll be minted but not actually distributed. And you know, they're not in any individual's control. You still need like the 3 of 5 signatures. So that's one way in which we can like improve on the gas efficiency. But the update I made like last time to use the Merkle distribution already did like a huge like that already saved a bunch of gas to begin with. You know, before it would cost us like $4,000 or $5,000, but now it just cost us like $30-$40. Specifically for doing the distribution, there's still like the cost of doing the votes and stuff in Argon. But yeah,
Still, like, though, like that money gets paid. It's just the claimer, right? It's a savings on one hand, but then like collectively we're handling that expense. You could you know, phrase it that way, or frame it that way.
yeah, it's better because like if you actually look at the contract, you know, so many people didn't actually redeem their tokens. So we're
it
spending a bunch of
could be
gas
cool.
distributing to people who wouldn't even like know or care about these seeds in the first place. So in that way,
or
like,
just like content to leave them there for a while and just
yeah,
like do it in transaction, and that's like totally reasonable and
yeah,
fine to it. There's good reasons to prefer one or the other depending on your position, and I don't know. I think
yeah.
it's okay. It's fine. It's not. I don't think it's really. Personally, I don't really think it's a whole lot better or worse than before. But I get the motivation for it, and I
Yeah.
see.
I mean, I
how
think in terms of like the
benefits.
net amount of gas we spend, it's drastically lower doing it through the Merkle route, just because people can claim multiple like distributions at once in one transaction later. It allows us like we can also start distributing like every 2 weeks or every week. You know, it only costs us $30 to distribute every week, or which is like, you know, $120 a month. Versus if you wanted to do it every week, in the old route, it would cost us like $20,000 a month. And you know, especially when people aren't, not everyone is redeeming. You know, I think that's probably like half the seeds like didn't get redeemed. That's a lot of wasted gas. So I think the net benefit in gas savings is definitely positive going this route.
Nice. And
Cool.
like the problem is still the seed minting in Aragon. How much does that cost?
Um,
And enacting.
so yeah, like creating a vote, it depends on the gas prices. Now gas is a lot lower, so it might not be as much, but like it's still kind of in the order of like creating a vote. And so you create the vote, which is like $20-$30 each. Voting on it each time is $20-$30. Enacting it is probably like $50-$60 like at a baseline. You know, that's like when we're only minting to one address. So like there's still probably like, you know, $200, $300 that will go into it. Even at today's gas prices total, like from minting the seeds to like seeding the Merkle distribution and all that. But it's much better than, you know, a few
Yeah, that's
thousand.
not too terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember for me
but
it was
like
like
we can
25 each just for enacting.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like if you really want to reduce it, we can use that strategy I said with the Gnosis safe. Like we create a multi-sig. I mean, which we'll probably want to do that anyways, because I have to like instead of minting to my address, like it's better if it just goes into a multi-sig first, and then we can all vote on it together. And it's not sort of centralized under my control. But yeah, we can save even doing all those Aragon votes in the future by just pre-minting a bunch of seeds, so that like every distribution will only cost us $30 instead of $300 if you want to make the further savings. And at the cost of like theoretical, you know, less decentralization, but in practice it would be more decentralization, because right now, even though everyone votes on the seed minting, like they all go to me first, so I could do anything with them at that point, which is like kind of ruins the whole point of the decentralizing using Aragon. So it would be a step in that, a better direction, going through Gnosis. Cool. How is the total amount of seeds minted determined? That's just the 20 seeds per week per active contributor, unless this question was meaning something else. If not, next question. Wondering about this part from the wiki. You might create something but end up feeling disappointed with your numbers. Despair not, as more people find your work valuable over time. Build on top of it or reference that your value accrues. How does this work exactly, and is it reflected in seed minted? So like in terms of in terms of how it works right now, it would be like, you know, people reacting to your stuff in the future more, or, you know, people creating an initiative for your stuff in the future. In GitHub, like there was something originally in SourceCred about like tracking like references and code and stuff, but that like was like it did not work well at all, because it's not actually accurate in terms of like what's valuable. Like if someone could make like a really basic helper function and have it be referenced by everything, and, you know, earn a bunch of XP for it when it's not actually that valuable. So in that sense, like that part of it didn't work. But I think that the main point this is trying to make is like, even if you didn't get all the XP up front, like retroactively XP can change. And if your work is found valuable later, then people are likely to like give you props for it, or create an initiative for it, or do something. But yeah, like it's the wording here is like not directly exactly how it works. Like it's hard to say like who built on top of it, and like that XP kind of it directly, like the system doesn't directly know how that exactly works. It's more so on a social level. Like if your work starts to get referenced more in Discord and like reacted to more and all that sort of stuff, it kind of like um compounds and like affects that historical XP. Next question. How can I game the system and get many XP while doing nothing or very little of value? Let's see. So I mean, like the most effective way is to like make it look like you're doing work, and get people to like react to stuff, and like basically it's pretty easy to like gain XP for just doing like busy work. So you can like be doing a lot of stuff that's like kind of like trivial or like not hugely consequential, or it's just kind of like it makes it look like it's effortful or you're doing a lot of stuff, but it's not actually having an impact on the organization, or not like pushing forward the the metagame as a whole. That's probably the most effective way to game the system, because like it actually like convinces other players that what you're doing is valuable, or at least seemingly. Even if someone, you can kind of like brute force it, right? Like if you've put a bunch of stuff and did a thing, and like someone still keeps reacting to your stuff, like especially if they don't, if they're more like beginners and they don't know. We do have these systems like you only get, like, the beginner players have lower weights and all this sort of stuff, but at a certain point you can still like it reduces the amount of XP you can earn, and kind of mitigates the problem, but it doesn't eliminate it entirely. Like you can still spam a lot and like get a bunch of XP that way. Let me think, what else can you do? Yeah, that's another thing. Also,
Or each step of a process.
sorry, what?
Posting each step of a process a couple times. Here's the
Yeah,
first draft thing. Here's the second draft. Here's the finished product. Here's the follow-up.
yeah, like, so yeah, basically kind of like inflating, like that's kind of what I meant too, like by making it look like you're doing more work than you actually are, is like just spamming it a lot. And this kind of, it really just depends on the players to sort of be have that like sensor, or like be tuned to kind of detect when people are doing that. But of course not everyone's going to be able to. So yeah, I mean, it's I think there's always going to be players who do that, but like at the end of the day, the best way to actually like get a lot of XP is to like genuinely create value. A lot of the time, like you might put more effort into gaming the system than like actually, just if you did the work, then you could get more XP for doing that, likely. And that's more in the meta game, like literal meta game. It's better for you long term to like actually contribute something that's valuable, because you might get some XP in the short term, but it won't really last, and you won't really sort of have that perception of someone who's creating value in the larger community if you kind of like just do a bunch of busy work. So yeah, it's kind of like a short term thing that you could maybe like optimize for, or like kind of like jump in, like earn some XP, like you don't actually care about this thing, and like move on. But the best like long-term way is to actually like genuinely get involved and contribute and like build the relationships with people and generally try to create value. In terms of like other kind of ways to game it, like technically you could like for like on the coding side, you could open like a lot of PRs that are making like really like trivial fixes and like get those merged. There's just because like you could do like like fixing typos in this one file and then doing these like kind of things that are like could be somewhat important but in the grand scheme inconsequential, and if you just like focus on those like small like easy to do tasks and just only do that, that's probably like a good way to like get XP for very little effort. But again, that's still like kind of like on a social level, we can if someone starts doing that and it like feels like they're not actually like trying to create value for this thing, we can kind of like detect that and kind of deal with it on a social level. Let's see.
So how would you respond to the argument that like someone who is maybe pulling like just small things on GitHub, that like they're just sort of clearing the way for someone who's doing higher level work to do that work and not like be bogged down by crap that could be handled by someone of lesser ability or training or whatever?
I mean, I don't think it's about like it's more so like the longer term patterns. Like if someone's only doing like really trivial basic stuff that like is not really that valuable, then that's different than if they're like actually doing something that's like valuable to other people, that's like helps them, enables them to like build other stuff on top of it. Like it all like it's all like super subjective, right? There's no like black or white or right or wrong answer. It's just a matter of like the overall patterns of this person's behavior and like what they're doing and what their intentions are. It all comes down to intention. If you have the right intentions, that's really what matters. And even if you kind of like uh unknowingly game quote unquote the system, like that's kind of fine, because we can like correct that through like education and people like being like, oh no, this is how we work or this is how we do it. But if someone's genuinely doing this on purpose, then it's up to like people to catch on to that and address it.
Is there a way to disengage emojis? Like if you're trying to post something somewhere that you just want to draw attention to, like, hey, go check out this forum thread, but you're posting it in Discord, right? So you don't want to get credit for posting it in Discord. Is there a way, besides just putting a disclaimer, don't emoji this, that you can like disable
I mean,
emojis?
like I don't think it's anyone's fault for other people emojiing things, like, and I don't think anyone needs to put a disclaimer. Like if someone thought it was valuable that you pointed out something, then they can emoji it, and like even if you don't think it's valuable, like if it's valuable to someone else, it is. So in that sense, I think that's fine. But if there's like specific patterns of like oh, like this type of discussion, we don't want people like getting emojis for this or getting like earning XP for this, and that's something we should address on like a policy or like configuration level, in terms of like the channel weights or something like that. But in terms of like those minor things, like if someone reacts to it, it's either like the problem is more with if someone reacts to it and it was genuinely not something valuable, then that problem is more with the person who reacted than the person who posted it. And I don't think there should be like a responsibility on the person who posted it to like prevent people from reacting to it. If someone actually genuinely thinks it's valuable, then that's perfectly fine for you to earn XP for that. And just comes down to like educating people on how and when to react to things.
I think it's a really good point, yeah. Since you cannot self-emoji, I mean you can, but it's not your emojis that generated, it's other people's emojis. So if a lot of people gave you a bunch of emojis, it's not you who's gaming, it's others maybe being irresponsible or whatever.
Yeah. Or it's actually valuable to people and they want to react to it. Because like that's the thing is like, especially early on before we introduced SourceCred, the way in which we did it was like everyone just said like, hey, I'm claiming this many seeds for doing this work based on like I spent this much hours and like a multiplier on how much like impact I think it had or something. And there was just a huge discrepancy in like what people claimed because like, you know, some people had thought their work was amazing and deserved so much, and other people's like work actually was amazing but didn't think it was that amazing. You know, they had like imposter syndrome. So then, you know, their people's like self-perception of their effort is like very skewed. So that's why like, you know, SourceCred is kind of designed for not to be like self-evaluation but more so peer evaluation, and kind of like getting the intersubjective like combination of what everyone's like subjective valuation is of that thing, because there is no like, you know, objective like number you can put on anything. It's only just like a blend of everyone's subjective opinions. Cool. Can you list all the ways XP can be earned? Off the top of my head, getting likes on forum posts in Discourse, getting reactions in Discord, and making pull requests on GitHub, and initiatives. I think that's the only way like XP can be earned directly. Unless I might be missing like one or two things, but those are like the main sources of XP. And then of course you kind of like earn XP on a secondary level just by like engaging with the community and building the connections in the graph. But those things I mentioned first are kind of like the sources of XP. Like kind of think of that as like that's like the pipe in which the water comes from, and then the water kind of flows throughout the whole land and kind of creates these like channels. And you know, you can get XP without actually doing any of those things, just by kind of like interacting in the graph and building those social connections. Yeah, there's actually like a new page that we have to like configure weights. It's probably like pretty confusing, but you can see that there's like node weights and edge weights. So node weights are basically XP getting created, and edge weights are like how big the pipe is between like different nodes and how the XP flows throughout the graph. So you can see that, you know, XP gets created for forum posts and Discord reactions, and this 1x is just the baseline, right? This gets a multiplier based on your role, based on the channel, all these different things. And then yeah, you can see these edge weights. So if yeah, so you can see like if something is liked, if a discourse post is liked, it kind of flows that way. If a post is referenced or linked, so if you actually like paste a link to another discourse post in the forums, then it'll actually flow XP there too. You know, Discord, you can see if these reactions. So this is interesting too. You can see that if you react to something, there's like that 1x weight going to it, but there's also a 1/16 x weight going back to it. So that's kind of like how an example of how the XP kind of flows throughout the graph. So you reacting to a message, there's actually a small amount of that XP going back to you as well. Or, you know, and then because there's a small amount of XP going back to you from the message, there's the person, you know, the message is authored by B. So the message is also connected to the person who authored it. And then, you know, through that like connection, the person who authored it is connected to the person who reacted to it through that like, you know, 2 hops. And yeah, these are kind of like the ways it goes. Yeah. Let's see. Next question. Does the My Meta system only contain the most recent XP value for a player? Is there a system with more complete historical record? Yeah, that My Meta. So like there's a bit of like glitchiness with My Meta, and like how the XP is loaded and updates. I think Alec has made some improvements there. But the kind of main source of truth for XP is like xp.metagame.wtf. That's where you can see like the kind of like all-time XP. There is some like observable notebooks that you can like basically if you want to, you can like if you're like proficient in coding, like you can actually like load up like the code and load these files and generate your own sort of like data and graphs and kind of analyze the data in that way, if you really want to dig into it. But in terms of like what's like a pre-configured UI, that would be at xp.metagame.wtf. Do we have a kitty of XP that can be offered from to incentivize bounties and activities if required? And if so, who to approach to seek permission? I'm not sure what this is asking. So just to clarify with the Gnosis safe, I more so meant like that wouldn't be for like giving seeds to people manually. That would just be so we don't have to vote multiple times in Aragon in every seed distribution. We would just mint like, you know, let's say like 20,000 seeds, and then use those seeds over the next like many months or the next year or something, however, whenever that runs out. But those would only be used to like distribute seeds through like the standard way in which we do it.
This sounds specific to initiatives.
It could be, but I wouldn't like. I think it would be an anti-pattern for us to like give seeds to people outside of the XP system. You know, it kind of like circumvents it and kind of like misbalances it. You know, like if we want to give people seeds, we should give them XP and then let them earn seeds through that system. So it's like actually accounted for. If it happens outside of that, then it's kind of like it's not sort of like kosher to do it that way. We rewarded that through the initiatives. So like
and tip bot.
Yeah, so if individual players want to tip people seeds directly, that's on them, you know. But I don't think as a DAO we should be distributing seeds outside of this like XP and seed system. We can actually, so just to clarify, the MetaFam DAO does have seeds that gets minted for it. So the MetaFam DAO could use this balance of seeds to distribute and do whatever they want with it. But this is only like MetaFam DAO only gets these seeds like through the XP graph, not kind of like outside of that system.
Yeah, those seeds are what we talked about, like rewarding for the hackathon. But yeah, they still came through the XP system. They weren't just like minted for the MetaFam DAO.
Yeah.
So like how does the DAO earn XP?
The DAO, let me see. I'll get the exact number.
Just like a percentage.
So the DAO earns basically 2.5%. No, so not. So basically, out of the total XP, an additional 2.5 XP is given to the DAO as like a dependency. In the same way, like the way SourceCred earns XP, is also like through this. You know, we have a dependency on SourceCred, and SourceCred gets 5% as like their you know, tithing essentially. The MetaFam DAO gets 2.5% as like, you know, this kind of think of it as like a tax on everyone. But instead of like you giving your seeds as a tax, it's kind of just taxation through dilution. You know, we create an extra 2.5% XP that goes to DAO. We haven't actually used these seeds for anything, but they are there for situations where we need to use them. The main situation we were actually thinking of when we did that was like adding liquidity from the DAO. The DAO can use those seeds to add liquidity, because before, like, the DAO didn't have any seeds, and we didn't have any way to like add liquidity for the seed pool.
So like for other things, like should we add like additional initiatives for the actual hackathon prizes? And like we also need to pay out Gitcoin itself. Should those be initiatives, or should that be taken out of that pool that you already have?
So the Gitcoin thing should probably be initiatives, but if there's like a hackathon prize, and like I feel like the hackathon prize could probably be pulled from that like pool of the MetaFam DAO, because like especially if it's not really someone who we consider is going to be like coming back and earning more XP and getting involved on that level. Yeah, it depends. We could do it in either, but if it's kind of like a discrete prize, it might make sense to do it from the DAO. It really depends on what the contributions were, and if the contributions were like already recognized by the graph or something.
Also, like a lot of the people that got bounties for the hackathon aren't even player rolled.
Yeah, I already paid out like all the bounties with my own seeds, so I will make a proposal to take the ones from the DAO, and then later we can either add an initiative or not do anything.
Yeah, I think
But
it's
we have a
easiest
bunch
just
of
to
seeds
take them
and
from
they
the
are from
DAO.
anyway. Numbers.
While we're on the topic, didn't you spend a lot of money, MetaDreamer, to not mint things last time around?
Yeah, that 2.5 ETH spent on a failed transaction, which, wow, that's even more now. What is that? What are we at now? Like 2,700?
27, yeah.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah, it's gone up like
6.7K.
$100 since we've been on the call.
Yeah. Yeah, I still need to like I'll make a proposal to like get reimbursed for that as well. Cool. Any other questions on this one? Or anything? Cool. Next question is, should Discord messages without comments receive 0 XP? Are players aware that they need to respond to everything for it to be an active part of the XP calculation? So without comments, I assume you mean without reactions? So just to clarify, if no one reacts to it, there's no XP that gets created there, but XP can still flow throughout the graph of people, especially if people reply to it. It creates an edge to that message. Like, and then like the other thing too is like not everything needs to directly get XP. There's a lot of sort of like kind of like engaging the community and like doing like sending messages and like doing stuff like you'll that helps you in the meta game of like you're more involved and people are more likely to react to your stuff in the future, and like it kind of opens opportunities for you to earn XP in other places. Not every single micro interaction you make needs to earn XP, and I don't think that is even a healthy way to do it, or even a and like that wouldn't be accurate at all either, because that kind of like optimizes for people making a lot of noise rather than doing actual work. So in that sense, like I want people to think of this XP system more so as like, it's capturing like the main points of value creation and then flowing it through the rest of the graph. So at the end of the day, every single like message and every single interaction does have a small amount of XP flowing through it, but it doesn't need to mean that like XP needs to be created in every single place, because if that happens, then it's just chaos. You don't actually have you don't know what's valuable and what's not valuable, if everything's valuable. There needs to be something that like it's like there's no good without bad, and like there's no hot without cold. Everything needs to be balanced in that way. So there needs to be things that don't get any XP for XP to actually mean anything. Questions? Nope. Okay. How does the reverse flow of cred back to SourceCred work? Does SourceCred receive minted seeds for this? Yeah, so I kind of mentioned this earlier, but the SourceCred basically gets an additional 5%, like whatever the total XP is. They don't get 5% of it as in like they take your XP, but let's say there's 1,000 XP that gets created in total in a certain week, then SourceCred will get 50 XP, which is like 5% in addition to that. So then the total XP created that week will be 1,050 XP. And then, yeah, SourceCred does receive seeds for this. Their policy with what they do with those seeds is they hold 1/3 of them, they add 1/3 of them to liquidity, and they sell 1/3 of them for DAI to like fund like SourceCred contributors.
Do you know if they added like single collateral or multi-collateral?
I'm not sure. I'll have to check. But recently they've actually stopped selling seeds because they said they don't need the money as much directly from MetaGame, and the like it's like, you know, better for like seed price to not be suppressed by SourceCred if like, you know, MetaGame contributors can like get that instead. So they'll just like hold them for now. Because like they're more basically like seed value has been like fairly stable, and like they're like more like closely aligned with MetaGame. But you know, for that that 1/3 is sort of their default policy of like new communities that join in, especially because like a lot of these communities are, you know, like the value of their tokens is probably pretty questionable, and like most of them who start off like their token might not even have liquidity at all, or like not be worth anything just because they started using SourceCred. Versus like there's other projects like Balancer and MakerDAO, for example, though they already have, you know, valuable tokens and stuff. So and the effect on their communities for like SourceCred selling a small portion of seeds is not as impactful. Yeah. If you add someone in a thread, does XP automatically go to them then, or is it just in give props? So both. The difference is that in give props, you're creating new XP. But when you reply to someone, you're just flowing XP that was already there, or kind of like shifting the like gravitational weight. So basically almost all the interactions affect XP in terms of how it flows, but only like certain actions actually create new XP. Like give props and did a thing create new XP. Yeah. No questions. Cool. Can negative weight be applied? No, there is no such thing as negative weight. The reason being, like, it's kind of like even on like a mathematical level, like in terms of how like PageRank works, like the concept of negative weight doesn't make sense. And in terms of like practical as well, like I don't think that's a good sort of dynamic to have, like in terms of that being the mechanism in which you like, you know, adjust how people get rewarded, because that can, if any of you have watched like Nosedive, the episode on Black Mirror where they have like the social rating system, that it'll kind of like tell you all you need to know about that kind of setup. The way in which you can like influence people's like weight, if like for whatever reason you might want to apply a negative weight, like that can be done through like, you know, like if someone like did something that they weren't supposed to do, or like, you know, we're gaming the system or whatever, like they can get demoted, they can get like, you know, people will just like stop reacting to them more, and like, you know, get like you know, they'll basically like get less from like dilution, you know. So their XP number won't go down, but the percentage of total XP they have will go down. And that's what really matters, right? Like we could 10x everyone's XP right now and it would not affect anything because it's the relative amount of XP everyone has that matters. So in that sense, like the negative weight concept can just be thought of as like your percentage XP goes down out of the total pool because everyone else earned more XP while you stop getting XP. Yeah. Where is XP stored? How is it collected from different sources such as Discord, GitHub, etc.? So the place it's stored is in GitHub. There is the, see if I can pull. So this is the repo for XP. It looks like we need to fix something. What happens basically is like there's a bunch of like configuration here that kind of says like here's all the plugins we're using, like this is like the reaction weights and the channel weights and whatnot. And then we have like a SourceCred bot in our Discord that reads the data from there. For GitHub, we give them like there's like we give them these are the repos that we want to like track for GitHub. And then same with Discord, it's like here's a link to the Discord forums. And then what happens is every day or every 6 hours, there's like a GitHub action that runs. And what this action does is here you can see. So it basically like loads all the data. So it loads in every message in Discord, every like pull request and commit in GitHub, all the initiatives, all the forum posts in Discord. You can see it's like it loads all that data. Takes quite a while. And then once it loads that data, it does like it takes the configuration, like calculates all the weights, generates the graph, and then spits out the XP scores at the end of it, like here's how much XP everyone had, and then it generates the like front end UI, which is what you see here, and then pushes that up to like our hosting service, and that's where it's stored. So if you actually look into actually here, let me see, I think this is still running on GitHub pages. There's a specific branch here called gh-pages, and here's where the actual like output data goes. So here you can go in and see like these are all gzipped files now, so you have to like ungzip them. And this is like optimization made because like they started getting really big. But these contain like all the nodes, the edges, all the like underlying data that was sorry, not the underlying data, like all the graphs that were generated from the underlying data. And then there's also like the underlying data itself is cached, but every time it runs, it kind of loads anything that's new. So every 6 hours, it like loads all the Discord messages that are new and all that stuff. Does that answer the question? I think so. Cool. Does SourceCred have public?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, so I have a bunch of like super technical questions that
Yeah.
can either be moved to a separate call or put at the end.
Let's put it at the end just because we have a couple questions, and then like people who don't want to hear the technical stuff can be on their way. The SourceCred have public APIs we can access. So in terms of like a web endpoint or like a REST API that's like on a network level, like no, but there is like you can import the SourceCred package from npm, and then use that to do various things. So here, let me just open it here. So here it is in the code. This is like basically what's available when if you like do like npm install SourceCred. There's like a bunch of different like parts. So there's like the ledger API. Here's where you can like, do stuff like minting grain, minting seeds, creating accounts, linking accounts, all that stuff. There's basically the plugin APIs, where you can kind of see there's different like utils. So Discord util, for example, like has a helpers for like creating identities. This is useful for like when you want to create identities in the ledger. The core, this is kind of like the main like logic of SourceCred. So you have like addresses, like every node in the graph has an address. So these are all the like helper functions to convert addresses to strings and like, just do a bunch of manipulation on addresses. More algorithmic stuff. There's probably like not something that most people would be touching. The graph, the weighted graph. So for example, you can load the weighted graph file from JSON and get like the actual like weighted graph class. And then, with the graph class, you can see that you can fetch the nodes, the edges, you can like have all these like low level functions of like adding a node to the graph, removing a node. A lot of this like more technical stuff. In terms of like what people mostly will be wanting to use the API for, it's probably cred graph. So with the cred graph, you can fetch a list of all the participants, fetch a list of all the like intervals, which is like weekly intervals. Actually, it's not the most the cred grain view. I think this is the more useful one. Yeah, so this is the cred grain view. This is the API that the actual like front end uses. So when you see the graph and the list of all the users, this is like the code that's used to actually generate that. So yeah, you can calculate the grain earned per interval for a certain account. You can time scope it. So now that we have the ability to like see last week, last month, you can, if you want to do like more specific time scoping, like what's the XP earned in this specific time period, you can do that. Participants, total grain per interval, all this sort of stuff, like kind of just like ways to like dive into the data on a code level. Instance, like this is basically to like load like a SourceCred instance from like the files in GitHub or the files in your local file system. This is all kind of new stuff that's being worked on. We're like making it, we're making it like a lot more modular so that we can have an instance stored anywhere, and there's kind of like generic like classes for reading the graph, reading these different files. So the reason for this is like eventually if you want to store the graph in ceramic or store it in different places, we can kind of create the like interface to easily swap out like where we're storing this data and how we're reading it and how we're doing all these different things. Yeah, that's as much as there is for like the SourceCred API. In terms of like, I can show kind of how we use it. So for example, in the XP repo, there's like some scripts you can see here. Like the seed minting script you can see. So here, like we import the SourceCred API. You can see we we load the ledger file. We use this is from the SourceCred API, so we parse the ledger. Then we can do like ledger dot accounts to get all the accounts in the ledger. You can see here we can do like where'd it go? Oh no, I think that's another file. Yeah, so here, this is basically when you update your ETH address in Discord, it adds it to like this address book file. So before every distribution, I run this like ETH addresses script, which loads all the ETH addresses there, and then adds the ETH address as an alias to like the Discord account or the Discord identity and activates those accounts as well. So yeah, that's kind of how you can interact with SourceCred on that level. We're making improvements here too. Even there's like better ways to actually like load the ledger file too, instead of having to do it manually. There's like ledger data storage classes and stuff you can use, but yeah. Back to the questions. How are the weights for different actions determined? Who updates this? Where and how often? Can we see these weights somewhere? Yes, you can. So if you go into the XP repo and go into config, there's a couple places. So in each of these plugin files, like in the Discord, this is probably like the most important one, because Discord is where most of our activities are. You can see that like these are the weights for the reactions. These are the weights for different roles. It's kind of hard to read. Like this is basically a Discord ID. So if you right click on a role and click copy ID, you'll find like what that ID is. So this, for example, was for Diamond founders. The weights on their messages and the channel weights as well. And then likewise, there's going to be so initiatives, they have their own like sort of weights and how they work. That's more so like on an individual level. There's also this like high level weights JSON file, or sorry, like lower level weights JSON file. This is kind of like it's the older way of doing it, but it's like manually adjusting the weights for like specific things. So yeah, like if, for example, if you want to adjust the weight of everything in GitHub being like 2.5x, this is where we did it. This is where this, for example, was when we updated them for like to have more weight on GitHub and less on Discord. And in terms of like, you can see the history of all these changes and when they were made. And we usually we don't update them very often. It's usually only when there's like issues with the XP system, or like something's not being like something's not working as we expect it, that we update these weights. But or let's say we add more channels or something and we want to like change the weights on those, like we could do that through this. How are they determined? Like, so there's most of the actions, like these are basically overrides that we have in here. The like SourceCred team itself determines like the default weights for everything. And that's kind of just based on like experience and like how the system works and like what things should have weight and what things shouldn't have weight. And those defaults work pretty well because that's what, the SourceCred team used itself earlier on to like distribute XP amongst themselves. So they did a lot of like the early fine tuning to get that like good baseline, and then any weights that we change, it kind of just overrides, or kind of like weights that are more specific to us because we have specific channels and roles and whatnot. Yeah, I think that's everything. Any other like questions from anyone before we go into the technical stuff?
I'd love to hear a bit more about creditor and what you think is the the exciting sort of aspects of it.
Yeah, so let me see if I can pull it up. The creditor is something that SourceCred is working on for its next version. There's like been some delays in terms of like actually getting it out, just because there's a bunch of other stuff that like needs to be done before. But the kind of purpose or idea of the creditor is it's kind of a way to replace did a thing and props, but have like a more robust system for people like assessing those contributions. Because right now in did a thing props, it's like it's kind of reliant on people like seeing your message in that specific time frame, like and reacting to it. There's no sort of like interface to see all the did a things and props that are ever given, and be able to see like how the XP is flowing and all that sort of stuff. Let me see if I can find it. Play this. Hold on to figure out how to work this. Okay, I'll just go through it manually. For some reason, this isn't doing the whole thing. Yeah. Okay. So basically, like, you know, a way to see here's like it's kind of like a combination of like editing and props and initiatives. Right now, you saw. So think of it as like a more formalized way of like what you guys did for the MetaFest initiatives. You know, like coming together and deciding the weight of these things. So basically, it's a place people can come in, like record what contributions they did, and then everyone else can come in and vote on how valuable they think that contribution was. And then at the end of it, it basically takes like a, you know, an aggregate score of like everyone's like reactions essentially. And then, you know, gives people like generates XP for it. And yeah, kind of like also showing more directly like where the cred came in and went out to, you know, who's the contributor. So it's basically like a more systemized, like more accessible and like easier to like understand way of like measuring and tracking contributions that a community does. So yeah, you know, you can see like you can add your contribution. You know, you can maybe select like what's like the project branch. So like we can maybe make like different categories, like this is dev stuff or this is different things, and maybe we can like set weights for different branches and whatnot. So yeah, you just say like who contributed, what you did, when it happened, you publish it, and then yeah, like project type could be like a bunch of tags, for example. You know, you have a slider for like who contributed how much in this like specific thing. And then, you know, this gets posted and then people can see it, and you can see like this many people reacted with legendary, and so you get an idea of like how other people evaluated it, how you evaluate it, and like, you know, you can sort and filter through like, you know, what hasn't been reviewed yet by you, what are the newest ones. So yeah, just basically like a more robust, like better structured, like way of handling props and editing and initiatives.
It looks a lot more transparent and trackable, and
yeah, that's like that's a
yeah,
big
it's
like
great.
reason for building the creditors, to like make it a lot more clear why and how and where people are like earning their XP from, and kind of making it like more intuitive, and you know, so we don't have to like do these like, you know, 20 question sessions just to like get people to understand like how they're earning and how they're sort of how their work is being perceived in the community. And yeah, this also solves like a lot of the issues with like the props and editing, where like the amount of reactions can like, you know, highly skew the amount of XP generated. And I think there's some things that were like done to mitigate that, like the you know, having like 50 reactions doesn't actually create 50 times more XP than having like one reaction. It kind of like tapers off eventually, but this is kind of like a much more accurate and direct way for people to like indicate like this is exactly how valuable I think this was, and you know, to get sort of the best like intersubjective view of like what people believe the value of this thing was.
And so, how will we be able to? I mean, where will this be, and how will it kind of interface with, say, Discord and Discourse and stuff?
Yeah,
Where
so
will we
I
go
think
through
what will
from?
happen is once the creditor is up, then we would like drastically reduce the weights of like stuff on Discord and probably even GitHub and kind of like the automated tracking, and actually rely on the creditor being the main source of like distribution of XP. And it'll probably just, it'll be like a web app, just like xp.metagame.wtf. It might even be like a separate page or a separate section in that page. And this is more so kind of for tracking like, like tangible like contributions that people make, and because like that's like right now too, especially the reason we even reduced the weight on Discord is like it kind of gets like somewhat accurate of like distributing XP to people who are creating value, but a lot of it is just noise, and a lot of people were like getting a lot of XP just from like talking a lot or like engaging and like but like not actually creating value or kind of pushing things forward as much. So this kind of like helps directly reward people who are like doing the direct contributions.
Nice. I like it. We were just chatting earlier about how there aren't any XP fairies, and it's kind of people's speculation was that, like Miz was saying, it didn't feel comfortable doing it, and there's this disincentive at the moment to do obviously anything that might affect your sort of overall popularity. Some people are just hardline, high integrity, like whatever, I'll be true to myself regardless. But it's sort of natural human nature to sort of shy away from stuff that might cut
It's
you
hard
off.
to track and quantify that work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like you'll be reviewing the Discord, probably mostly Discord.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I don't know, just like you're gonna be investing a fair amount of time and no one's gonna see it. Right, and like what are you gonna do? Like, did a thing, I took 5 XP away from Luxumbra. Like how are you gonna be made whole on that time invested that you didn't invest on a pull request, or you didn't invest on like making some art that will
and
persist
I think
in
too,
Metagame
like just
forever.
that like concept of XP fairies, like doing these sort of things, like that's almost like a symptom of some like problem with the system rather than like something that actually needs to exist or should exist. The creditor kind of helps like everyone be an XP fairy to a degree, and like makes it like a lot more of like a even playing ground for everyone, or even playing field.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's all the questions. Hope that was helpful for everyone. If anyone wants to stick around for the more technical stuff, we can start getting into that now.
Thank you.
I can't promise not to ask any stupid questions, but I'll be here.
I understand a lot more about all these things now, so thank you so much for answering those questions.
Awesome.
Yeah, likewise.
Very good. Yes, my brother MetaDreamer inside the ride.
That's good. That's good, man. Yeah, Alec, what's up?
I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay. You were talking about like pre-minting. I don't know, X amount of seed. You could mint all at once. Is there a possibility that, say, if Metagame, if we decided to mint, 20,000 seed, like you said, or something, preemptively, could we form an alliance with another DAO that did the same thing and pool our 2 tokens together before we're actually rewarding them to players?
I don't think that would be like ideal to do, like, because the only reason we should pre-mint is just to like save gas costs of having to mint. I think like if we do anything with those seeds before actually just distributing out to the XP system, then that's kind of like breaking the rules of the game essentially. So
Okay.
like we wouldn't want to pre-mint for any purpose other than distributing out to the XP. But like I mentioned before, we have like the MetaFam DAO itself has a certain amount of seeds that it can use to do whatever with. So someone can make a proposal like if we want to do some sort of like token swap with another DAO, or we can like figure those things out. But yeah, in terms of the
Okay.
pre-minting, like that's only should be considered as like a gas optimization thing.
Gotcha.
Um,
I have a question about SourceCred.
Yeah.
So having it fully functional and tracking like everything that's happening from not only emoji reactions but also GitHub commits. How difficult is that to manage?
What do you mean by manage?
Yeah, like the information's integrity.
As in like if someone is like censoring that information, or
Yeah, more so like if people are making bad commits and just trying to gamify the system.
yeah.
And
So in the case of GitHub, so in general, the kind of like the principle that you want to follow in SourceCred is you only want to create XP anytime there's like a human sort of approval step involved in like sort of validating that XP creation. So in Discord, like the only thing that creates XP is someone reacting to it. So that's like, a way that a human can actually like validate or, give a signal that something is valuable. If there's XP actually being minted for people just sending a message, for example, then that would, quickly go into chaos because people can then mint XP for themselves without needing anyone else to like approve it in some way. With GitHub, commits don't earn any XP, only pull requests earn XP. So to actually earn XP through like code contributions, you have to go through the pull request approval process. So in that way, like, and same with discourse, right? You only earn XP when people like your post in the forums. So that kind of helps mitigate people like just making a lot of spam or noise. But again, like in practice, like there's someone can make like 10 PRs that make like trivial changes, or just move one file from here to there or something, and the PR is not going to get any XP until it's merged. So it kind of more so relies, it's a lot of like reliance on the social level and like the people to like detect and mitigate that sort of stuff from happening.
interesting. Okay, I get it. It makes perfect sense. And configuring all this, how long did it take?
I mean, like just getting SourceCred running on a baseline, like it maybe takes like, you know, 15, 20 minutes, just like, if you want to set up a SourceCred on a Discord. But like it's kind of just a continuous process, like, adjusting weights and doing all this stuff. Like the more complicated stuff is like, getting the seed minting and like kind of the whole system, like that's more complex, but just like running SourceCred is not doesn't take too long in and of itself.
Figured, yeah, yeah. I mean, more so, you guys are taking care of the minting via Aragon for the most parts. I know this because I actually interfaced with the organization before over, Aragon ID, and I essentially just like pushed the vote forward after we had enough votes to move forward with the mint. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I was excited. I couldn't wait anymore. It was my first ever mint cycle. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good segue into what I wanted to bring up, which is so it seems that like we're pretty dependent on you, MetaDreamer, for a lot of things, and I think one of our initiatives that at least Penguin and I have been talking about, and probably Pete too, is just how can more builders or more people in the community be able to kind of help out with, you know, maintaining the SourceCred instance and eventually minting seeds and all that. Because I think, I don't know what the community feels about this, but I feel like we should probably be, you know, minting seeds more often.
Yeah.
And having that, you know, having more people be able to do that would really be a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Often or not often. I don't know if that's important, but I know a lot of people are kind of like just bothered by a lack of awareness and maybe like looking for some regularity. They could just ask somebody and they'd be like, oh, no, it's on the first of every second month. Like, who cares when it is as long as we know when it is.
Yeah, having a schedule and otherwise it just seems like chaos. You know, it seems like anarchy. So which is not a bad thing. I'm not trying to say that is a bad thing. But,
yeah, no, definitely. Like, you know, I think it's important to like have expectations and like, you know, have people know that like what they can expect and when they can expect it. And yeah, like you know, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, like there needs to be someone else that needs to know how to do this sort of stuff, so that you know, everything doesn't come to a halt. And you have to like kind of sift through like my past work and try to understand what I was doing. And yeah, like even within SourceCred itself, we're working on like automating this whole flow. You know, of like where you can actually just go in the admin interface itself and just click like, you know, mint these things and just sign some transactions and have it be like a lot more seamless that way. And yeah, so in specifically for like this most recent minting, why it was like delayed longer than usual is because of Metafest, and you know, because we wanted to account for XP generated in Metafest, because that would like drastically affect how the seed was distributed. If we distributed before accounting for all those initiatives in Metafest, it would kind of like all the people that like did that work wouldn't get the seeds. So that was like the one like kind of major delay here. Like now that we have the initiative set up, we can like move forward with the minting. But yeah, moving forward, I think now that especially that we have the Merkle drop, you can start maybe doing like bi-weekly minting, that sort of thing as well. But yeah, another sort of reasoning behind like delaying minting is to like sort of give time for like any issues to be resolved, which there's less of now, less frequent. So we can start to like speed that up. But you know, earlier on there would be like, you know, oh, we need to change these weights, or oh, this has too much XP, and like, you know, if we start minting seeds based on like things that aren't like configured correctly, then we can't really take that back. And usually before every seed minting, like I'd put it up and it'd be like a week of like back and forth with people on like, oh hey, this is not set up, or like my account isn't active, and like you know, sorting through these issues, which, you know, that sort of dynamic made it hard to have it like, you know, consistently it's going to be on this date every time. But I think now that we have some better tools, and things have been like more stable, like XP wise, in terms of like, you know, changing weights and whatnot, that we can start to like be more consistent with it. Yep. Cool. So yeah, I guess we can get into the Merkle distribution. So I mean, on a baseline, like the first thing people will need to like get set up is actually like, you know, have this like XP repo loaded locally, you know, set up their environment variables with you know, it's in the README here. You know, you'll need the GitHub token and the Discord token as well, which, you know, you'll have to ask for if you don't already have one. But once you have that set up, you know, the baseline is like, you know, of course, Yarn install the packages, then what you want to do is like run yarn load. And this is what goes and like loads all the data from Discord and Discourse and all that stuff. The first time you run this is probably going to take like half an hour or longer, just because it's literally loading everything from like the history of metagame for like the last 2 years. Once you've loaded it that first time, the following times it'll still probably take like, you know, at least like 5, 6, 7 minutes, because it still has to like fetch in like all the channels and see if there's any new messages. But you will have this like cache folder here, that here, actually, let me change my stream quality. Is it fairly clear for everyone here? Can you guys like see everything clearly? Cool. Okay. Yeah, so you run load. I'm going to cancel this for now just because I don't want to wait 5 minutes. And then after that, you can do like yarn start. And then what this does is it takes all the data that it loaded and it actually does the oh crap, I shouldn't have stopped the load in between, so I'll have to load it. And then yarn start will basically like generate the graphs, and you know the actual like data that's used to like render the front end. And yeah, so like you'll need that on a baseline basically to like do the actual like distributions and stuff, because you want to like have the locally have like all the XP amounts and whatnot. So basically once that's all loaded, you can go into like grain.json. This is where like the policies are configured, for, you know, how much grain to distribute every week. So this also max simultaneous distributions. This is like how many weeks in the past to distribute for. So like since I think it's been like 6 weeks, so that should be fine to do 8, but I'll just put it at like, you know, 20. It doesn't really matter. It's only if you like want to like, this is more so for the case like you only want to start distributing seeds from like a certain time point forward. But for us, we're going to be distributing it for like ever since the last distribution, so that's fine. In terms of like actually figuring these numbers out, like I have that observable notebook which I have to fix because it's having some errors, but that basically just calculated like how many active players there were per week, and then over the 8 weeks I just take the average of like how many active players per week, and then 20 seeds per active player, split that between balanced and recent, and then basically just update these numbers. So like for the purposes of this, I'll just assume it's the same. Oh, okay, it's running now. So and then yeah, so in terms of this, like I'll kind of like segue a bit from this, or like sidetrack from this a bit to show the admin interface. Yeah, so when you run SourceCred locally, you'll notice that you get some different options here in terms of the UI. By default, you only have these 3, but when you run it locally, you have this identities tab. This identities tab is what's used to like activate people's identities. So if they're not active, then they're not going to be like getting seeds distributed to them. This is just used for like, you know, we only want to distribute seeds to people who have actually set their ETH addresses and are like, you know, active in the community, because there's going to be a lot of people here that are just like, you know, showed up in the Discord once or something but aren't really active, and you know, we don't want to dilute the seed pool to like a bunch of people who aren't active in that sense. And also, you know, we don't want to have bots be active and earning seeds as well, because that just kind of dilutes the seeds going to the actual contributors. This is also used for like merging identities. So if people have like, you know, this is a GitHub account, but if he also has like a Discord account, and you want to link it to this GitHub account, you would go in and like add this alias, You can search basically by a certain username of like aliases that are not linked yet, and then link it to that person, and then you just click save ledger to disk, and this just updates your ledger JSON file with like whatever changes you made to identities. Yeah, so you can see here, this person has like the GitHub Discord, their ETH address linked, all that stuff. Transfer seed. This is, we don't ever actually like use this in the UI, but like for example, SourceCred internally uses this to like when someone sells their seed for DAI, they like transfer it from their like ledger account into their like basically like a placeholder account. We use this function in the code though when we distribute seeds. Like if you look into this like seed accounts file, like everyone's current balance is 0 because this is like once we distribute seeds on chain, we deduct them from like your ledger balance. So here, let's see if so Ethereum Mainnet is basically this account that's like a placeholder for any seeds that got minted on chain. So once we mint seeds for people in the ledger and then mint them on chain, there's a script to basically transfer those seeds from everyone's like ledger accounts into this one like account to kind of represent that, you know, these seeds have already been minted. Yeah, but so this UI basically you can ignore it. We don't really use this. Configure weights, this is new. We probably won't use this either. This is kind of like, it's also like this is not new, like it's new for this, but it's like the outdated way of configuring weights. This is kind of like the really low level like defaults that SourceCred sets. We'll most likely don't want to touch these. The type of weights we want to configure are more so in those like config JSON files that I showed earlier, like where we're setting channel weights and stuff like that. And yeah, ledger history is visible on the normal one as well. But yeah, that's just, yeah. 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 Yeah, so once you update the JSON file locally, that's just in your like local code base. So then any changes you make, you then need to make a pull request to actually like put them into the like master copy essentially. So I can't technically, any changes I make here are just temporary. You know, I can mess around with this and like it won't affect the real like source of truth until I make a pull request and merge it in. And you know, if you mess something up, you can always like, you know, revert your commits and whatnot. So yeah, this is kind of just a temporary state for you locally. And yeah,
Is
like
this how you go about doing it?
yeah, so I have some scripts in terms of, I'll show this now. I have some scripts to automate a lot of it. So like, for example, activating accounts. I only activate accounts for people that have linked their ETH addresses. So this is a script that loads the address book, links their, like, you know, based on, you know, I'll show what that looks like. I'll just drop a link to it in the dungeon walls. That has people's like Discord IDs and the Ethereum address they put in the like that specific channel. It matches that with the Discord ID in the ledger. It merges those accounts, and then it also checks first of all if there's like already someone who has linked that Ethereum address to someone. If then it doesn't do anything, and then, you know, it adds the alias and activates that account. I have a PR in progress too that actually does this using the Discord bot and updates the ledger file in GitHub like directly, without having to like do this locally, so people can get it updated like real time. Right now you kind of have to wait until like someone goes in and runs this script and, you know, pushes the update into the master branch for it to actually show in the UI that your account is active and whatnot. So yeah, but there are cases where, you know, people want their accounts linked, and that is still like a manual process right now because it's kind of there's a security issue automating that until we can actually have like verification. Like if we just rely on people like trusting people that they actually own the accounts that they want to link together, we can't really do that automatically because if they link someone else's account to their account, they can like steal their XP and seeds essentially. So that's what we're waiting for like IDX for is like using that like people linking their accounts into like their IDX identity into their ETH address there, and then using that as a source of truth for us to like link all these accounts in the ledger. And there's, I think, Disbulik, you were working on a lot of this stuff too for kind of syncing between IDX account linking and SourceCred account linking. And so yeah, like it's kind of like work in progress. There's some stuff out there. But it has to kind of just like come together when IDX is in production for us to actually like use that flow. But that hopefully will let us automate it. It will let people link their accounts automatically, activate it automatically, and kind of reduce a lot of this overhead, like running these scripts locally and going through those identities in the UI and linking them. Cool. So let's see if this load is done. No, it's still going. It shouldn't be an issue though. So yeah, once this grain JSON file is updated, what you can do is there's this command, just yarn grain, and that will, based on like all the data that was loaded, distribute grain every week, or seeds, sorry. Distribute seeds every week to people, and kind of so this was for many weeks. So it'll show like each week an output of like this is where the balanced policy went out to, and this is where the other policy went out to. So in this distribution, you'll probably notice that I'm gonna have like a decent amount of seeds because in the last distribution I like deactivated my account just so like everyone else could get more seeds because it was also late. So once I reactivate my account, the balance policy is going to give more to me because I didn't get any seeds last time. So it's going to kind of like balance that out by giving it to me more this time. But yeah, so once this runs, you can do like the yarn start again. There's actually another command that you can here to kind of, because like not, you don't necessarily need to run the whole like algorithm again. So if you want to just like run the admin UI, you can just use, I'll push this up, but you can do yarn SourceCred serve, and that'll like load that up. I'll switch to that. Cool. So once I ran that yarn grain command, you can see in seed accounts all the seeds that everyone got distributed. So at this point, I usually copy paste this into like a Google Sheets or something and like share it with the community, and everyone can see like they got seeds or not, and like if someone's account's not activated or whatnot. Yeah, so once this is done, and like you kind of verify that these are good to go, that's when we have to then start to like translate this to like the on-chain distribution. But before I get into that, is there any questions anyone has for like whatever I said so far?
Yeah, so currently what you just did, there's a distribute grain GitHub action, and that one is currently broken, and I've actually been trying to fix it over the past like week or so.
Yeah, so that one like we actually never used that one and didn't even intend to use it just because like we didn't want to automate grain distribution in that way, but maybe we can now. The reason I didn't want to automate it before is like people would get the wrong ideas. Like for example, if it kept distributing grain before we added all these MetaFest initiatives, like those numbers would be like completely different than if we added those initiatives. And then people might be like, oh, I had this much seeds, like where did they all go? Like it changed, you know, or if we change weights, because usually there's a lot of fixing we do before the distribution. So I just relied on kind of distributing the grain manually, like right before we actually did the on-chain distribution.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense, because then like you want that space in between the seeds, because then like if you update the seeds on that page weekly, but you only do the on-chain distribution like every 2 months, that's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
That's-
So,
that's no
you know,
bueno.
we could probably, you know, automate it in some way, like, you know, updating this JSON file every week based on how many active players there were. And then, you know, the GitHub action would be a bit more accurate. But yeah, like we just haven't done that yet. So for now, it kind of just relies on running this command locally, like before you do that distribution.
Okay, good to know.
Cool. Okay, so after that, the main script that actually like converts the seeds in the ledger to like the actual like JSON output we use to generate the Merkle root is this seed minting file. Another function that's in this is this deduct seeds already minted. So basically, like these were the amounts last time that got distributed out, and like I just copy pasted those into here, like the last minting, you know, address and amount, and then this function here just goes through each of those and like you know, transfers the seeds from like the account to that like ETH mainnet identity, which is here. It has like a ID for it. And then, you know, it has a ledger record of like minted seed on chain to this address on this date, and then the transaction hash. There's like a record here of like all the distributions that happen historically. The Merkle one is a bit different. Like you don't actually see in the transaction hash like everyone who got it. You just see like the total amount. So I also like pasted like this Merkle root URL. This is like the IPFS file essentially, where this file is stored that contains like the specific amounts for everyone. So yeah, like this, you kind of run this after like you do the on-chain distribution. So yeah, for now you can, what I usually do is just I comment out these two lines here of like deduct seeds already minted. Yeah, so kind of I'll just run through the script, I guess. I don't need that one anymore. Loads the ledger, loads the address book. I wonder actually why we even need this anymore. Because now the ETH addresses are in the ledger. Okay, I might need to update the script, but the gist of it is like it loads all the accounts, it fetches all the Ethereum addresses for every account. It filters like for only the accounts that have Ethereum addresses. So if it doesn't have Ethereum addresses, it's not going to show up in the distribution. And then this is kind of like the meat of it. For each of the accounts, we figure out the amount to mint by using like the account.balance, set that address, give it that amount to mint, and then, you know, calculate the total, because the total is what we'll need to like, that's the number we actually put in the proposal to the DAO to mint, and then, you know, put in the Merkle contract. Dependency accounts. Yeah, so these are like the actual like active accounts. The dependency accounts are the SourceCred and MetaFam DAO. So here's like the ETH addresses configured here. I can probably add these now that ETH addresses are in the ledger. I can probably update this to fetch it from there and update in there, but this works for now. And then yeah, this is, you can uncomment this line. So the last time was like 2mint5 Merkle. I just updated this to mint6. So you can run this file. Yeah, so you just do like node script seed minting, and then you should get a file here. Yeah, so this is like, this should kind of correspond with whatever was in the ledger, in terms of like the amounts to mint. So then from here, we have to go into the other repo. So let's see. With my mouse. There is this repo called ERC20 redemptions. I think I pushed it up. Let me check.
Yes, you did. I've seen it actually. I've had the pleasure of reading through the repository. It's also inside of the seed minting tab as well, the GitHub that you made public.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's under my GitHub right now. I should transfer it to the MetaFam org. Hold up, give me 1 sec. Yeah, so this is the repo. You want to like get this locally. I'll share what that screen looks like. Yeah, so this repo has two, like, it's kind of a mono repo, but it's not using like workspaces or anything. I'm getting notifications. I need to mute this. It's distracting me. Do not disturb. Okay. So there's a client folder. This is like the actual front end that you see when you go to claim.metagame.wtf. The Ethereum folder is just kind of like a temporary folder for like the builds. And then the Merkle folder has like the Merkle contracts and like the code to generate the Merkle roots and stuff. I've already deployed the contracts, so you guys don't have to worry about that. What you'll use this repo for is just updating the like generating the new Merkle roots, which I'll show you how to do now. So yeah, you'll want to go into like this Merkle folder, like cd Merkle, and run like yarn in there to just like install those packages. This could be better organized, but basically in the test folder, in the data folder, this is where like you can put where I had the files. So this is the last one we used, seed Merkle 1. And there's also the snapshot.json file. But this is basically is like a map from like which Merkle distribution it was to like the IPFS hash that contains this file basically. So what we want to do here is copy over that file we just generated. Where to go? Okay, something's being funky on my side. Okay, here it is. So I'll paste this in here. I'll just call it seed merkle2.json. That's it there. And then there's some scripts you can run here. Let me try to see what it was. Okay, yeah. So basically you want to run yarn disperse link to the seed file. And then this is a what's it called? The Ethereum like transaction, sorry, the block number. Yeah, so block number, you just want to go to like Etherscan and look at whatever is the latest block number. And of course, all this stuff should, like, we can probably turn this into like some documentation or instructions on like how to actually run this. So you can just like go like load up the latest transaction. You can see this is the block number. So going back to this, we can put that block number. Instead, we'll put seed merkle 2. This is network live, so this is basically doing it on mainnet. If you're so involved, if you're so inclined, you can like deploy like the local chain and like test it all there, or deploy it to a test net. Before I actually deployed this all in mainnet, I deployed it to like Kovan testnet on Ethereum just to like make sure it's all working. But in this case, like now that we've like verified this whole flow is working, it should be fine. This yarn disperse script, this basically just loads the Merkle tree based on that file, and then generates whatever the Merkle root is. So then you can run this. Oh, something happened. Oh, mnemonic not provided. Okay. So you'll need a, hold up. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna stop sharing just so I don't like leak my secrets. I'm pretty sure I removed them from here already, but just in case I didn't. Okay, yeah, they're not there.
That is so much information, bro. Wow. I'm blown away by the amount of effort you put into this. Like, seriously.
Thanks, man.
MetaDreamer. Like, dude.
Appreciate it. Okay, let me see.
Wow, bro, that software is amazing. Seriously.
Thanks, man. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna put this fake mnemonic here first. So I technically don't even think it needs to be like an actual account, but it's just complaining because of like the truffle configuration. So yeah, you can have like this is basically like the 12-word like seed phrase. Don't actually put your real seed phrase there. Like just put whatever
all
fake
running
thing.
in, right? So this is so
Yeah,
like you
this,
just add that to your truffle account. I'll take it.
yeah, like when I needed to put an actual seed phrase here when I like deployed the contracts, because like I was actually doing the deployments from there, but like for now I think it can just be anything. It was just complaining
This is
because it
ready.
needed
This
some
is
account.
built for live already. This is built to run live already. I get it for sure.
Yeah.
And you were like not trying to expose your key and your wallet and all your money,
Yeah.
but just train us to utilize the software interface
Yeah.
for the Merkle root and the tree itself.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so basically it'll kind of output this thing. This is not like exactly accurate, but the main thing that you want to get out of this is hold up. Yeah, so this, like, I should just remove this while I'm here. You don't need this finish week thing. So what we need to do basically is run the seed allocations, or sorry, like call the seed allocations method on the like Merkle contract with like week number as 2. These aren't actually based on weeks. Like you can distribute it whenever, but this is the second one we're doing, so it'll just be 2. and then this is actually like the Merkle root hash. So that's the thing that you want to copy. And then from there, what you do is, okay, then we'll just save that somewhere, like copy it, whatever. You want to go into the client folder. Let's see, where is it? So, okay, no. This is what you need to do. So you need to upload this this JSON file to IPFS so that the front end can actually load this to calculate, if you actually have a seed amount for your address to claim. The way that this is done, which like we'll need to figure out a better solution for this, but it's currently on my Fleek account. So Fleek is just like, think of this as like Vercel, but for Web3. You can host like IPF, you can host websites and stuff on IPFS. I'll sign in here. I think we can create a team account on Fleek, but it costs money, or like, I don't know if I can add people here. Basic team plan. I don't know if I shouldn't be paying for this, right? Yeah, no. Let's see what the pricing is.
It says $0.00.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if I can add other people. Yeah, no, team members only one. So maybe we can just like create like use a MetaGame Gmail account and just like have an account here, because I really don't feel like paying $15 a month just for this. It's like, yeah, we don't need that. So anyways, assume we have some sort of account. There's in my team bucket seed claim. So I have seed merkle1.json here. I'll just want to upload that seed merkle2.json file. Let's find that here. Seed merkle2, upload it, confirm. So once this uploads, you'll get an IPFS hash for this file. So you want to copy that IPFS hash, and then go into this snapshot file. So in this snapshot file, you can see that was the IPFS hash for the first one. You just want to put 2 and then this. So that's the IPS, that's the hash for the one we just uploaded. Save that file and then go back into Fleek. Technically we don't need to use Fleek. I'm pretty sure we can just like upload it anywhere in IPFS, but
Yeah,
Fleek
so
just
we could
makes
probably use it on Pinata then.
Yeah, we can probably use Pinata as well. But yeah, like I think it's just like Fleek was what the like repo was using originally, so that's what I use and what I'm used to using. So, but we can probably figure out another way to do it. So yeah, right now this snapshot JSON file is like that original one. So we'll want to upload this new one that has that second root in there. Confirm. Okay, so that's up there. And then back to the code. Here, what we'll need to do is, okay, also just to show you guys where this is. This is where I configured like the URL for the seed claim. So if we change the Fleek account, we'll just have to change this URL here in the client source helpers utils file. Yeah, this is where it loads that snapshot JSON. So technically, because we updated this already, I'm going to double check first. Open my account. Yeah, so right now, even if you guys go to claim.metagame.wtf, you guys should see like those updated updated amounts, just because like that front end was already pulling from that snapshot.json file. So you can see here I have like the 189 seeds, which matches like whatever I had in the let's see. I hope it does at least. Yeah, 189. These are the ones we just minted. So it's showing up here now. The claim is not actually going to work because that we actually haven't updated the contract itself with the new Merkle root. So what we need to do is go to that contract. Where is it? I mean, the time for that would be like when we did the distribution in the ledger, because like you wouldn't want to have to repeat all the like Merkle calculations again just because people changed it. So like in terms of people knowing how much seeds they get, that's just after we run that like yarn grain command. People should be able to see that there. Let me find the contract address. It's in. So in the client folder in config, homestead is just another name for mainnet. It has like the Merkle redeem address here. So that's the contract I deployed for the Merkle redemptions. So then you can go into Etherscan and look up that contract. And that's right here. So yeah, this is a Merkle redemption contract. And so right now the owner is set to me. What we can do once we actually mint the seeds on chain is we'll create the Gnosis multisig, and I will call the like transfer ownership function and then transfer the ownership of this contract to the Gnosis safe. And then what we can do then from the Gnosis safe is connect this through like Wallet Connect. And then the seed allocations function. This is what we want to. This is the function we want to call. So we'd put two. We'd copy that Merkle root we had from before, put that there, and then total allocation. The total allocation is like the total amount of seeds that we're going to distribute, which I will pull that up. What it was. Oh, I don't even think I logged it. Look, do it again. Yeah, so that total amount was this. So this is in like, this is the amount of seeds, but this needs to be in 18 decimals. So you can like click this plus button and add 10 to the 18 zeros. And that's the actual like allocation that will be made. It's 10 to the 18 zeros because the seed contract itself has 18 decimal places. Should show that here once that loads. But yeah, so we call this function, and then what this does is you can see the seed allocations function here. You can see this in the repo as well. The contract is there, but it'll like set the Merkle root for that week, and then it'll transfer the tokens from whoever's calling the address. So this will be the multisig once we mint the tokens to the multisig to this contract address. One thing we will need to do before though is we'll need to approve this contract to spend the multisig seeds. I already approved that on my account, but once we transfer the ownership of this to the multisig, we'll need to go into the here. Okay. Yeah, so this is the seed contract. You can see it's 18 decimals. So the first thing, yeah, with the multisig, we'll have to go in here, write contract, approve. So the spender will be this contract. So we'll say this contract has approval to spend however many seeds. We can just put this like the max number for like infinite approval, so that we don't have to do this again in the future. But we can just approve it for also this specific amount of seeds which we were going to mint, which is that same number here. So yeah, once this contract is approved to spend the multi-sig seeds, then we can call this function to seed allocations, and then once we do that, then anyone should be able to claim their seeds from that web page. That is pretty much it. I know it's a lot. I think we can. I can work on like making a written version of that, but hopefully that kind of like shines some light on the inner workings.
Dude, you like compile this into documentation? Oh my days, dude! You would empower so many DAOs. Like, you know that, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the stuff was already out there. Like Balancer is the one who like did most of the work, like even creating this thing. But it was like there is like still a gap in terms of like getting from that repo to like figuring out all the steps in between to like actually deploy the stuff. So yeah, like I think actually someone even made a front end or a UI to like automate all this, so that you can just like paste the JSON file and it'll like deploy the contracts for you. I saw that on Twitter somewhere. I think it was Zeph from yeah, I think it was Zephram that did it. To find it. Where's advanced search? Merkle. Yeah, Astro Drop. Yeah, so this kind of just automates that process. You say like, here's the token. Enter recipient address and airdrop amounts. Actually, we could probably even use this, like what to deploy new contract, but this might be easier for people to like use. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's do this test.
You gotta act out.
Astro drop title, metagame logo, description. Yeah, so I don't know if this deploys a new contract every time, so that might be more gas intensive, because like deploying the contract costs, what did it cost me? Yeah, it cost me like $500 to deploy the contract, but doing the actual distribution was much cheaper. Let me see how much it was. Yeah, doing the distribution was like $62, and that was when gas was at 130. It's probably cheaper now. Yeah. So yeah, we could experiment with this as well. Let's see what happens if we do this. Deploy airdrop smart contract. Yeah, so this obviously I don't want to deploy it now, but this might be an option. I don't know if it lets you do like follow-up distributions. They have their code here.
Dude, oh
Thanks,
my
man.
God, can you please take me under your wing? And like, oh my days, bro. I love this tech so much. Dude, you know everything about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the best way to learn is like getting your feet dirty. Like I didn't know anything about markets until I implemented this thing. It was just like going through the code, deploying it like locally, test nets, and like messing around. That's usually the best way to
I
learn.
get it. I have all the environments installed on this machine that I'm communicating with you already. I've deployed my own contracts. I've tapped faucets on test nets and stuff. I know how to configure like RPCs and shit. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm in it. I've been doing it for years. But like, you know, like probably way more than I do. And like, on my days, dude, like I want to just like, you know, freaking hang out with you and just like understand everything and just like just fully get it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
dude,
yeah. I've been meaning to like start like live streaming stuff too, but like it's a freaking battle of like doing the work or like setting up the live stream to then show myself doing the work, and it's just like I have to make the time. But yeah, hopefully I can start doing that.
yeah, for sure. Anyway,
Cool guys. Yeah, any other questions anyone has on this? Nope. All right. Thanks everyone for listening, and yeah, hopefully we can I'll put the proposal up for actually I'll post up the seed amounts first and then see if anything's wrong with that, and then make the DAO proposal to actually mint the seeds. We may
if I
vote.
claim right now, will it work?
No, it won't.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll have to go into the multi-sig and or like we have to create the multi-sig and then do all that stuff too. Penguin, do you know like who we would like have as multi-sig signers? Maybe just like Diamond Fam or yeah.
Yeah, thanks for walking us through all that, MetaDreamer. That was really, really useful.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a bunch of other meetings today, so I don't know if I'll get to the rest of it today, but if someone wants to like set up the multi-sig in the meantime, and or like share the like seed amounts, which I'll post it up right now actually in the Google Sheet while I'm here. Just to like make sure if anyone has any issues with it. Then hopefully by tomorrow I can get that rolling. Cool. I added it to the same Google Sheet for like the MetaFam initiatives. I'll link it here again in the chat of Dungeon Walls. So yeah, you can just share that around and let me know if anyone has issues with those seed amounts. No worries. Cheers, guys. See ya.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cheers.